Chapter 51, Killing Enemies Like Crazy. Zhao Feng is watching. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For the elites who know Zhao Feng's strength, they naturally respect him, but for most of the elites, in their opinion, Zhao Feng was transferred from a logistics army, and the military exploits he made were too weird and a little too false. After all, what you hear is not what you see, but today they can be said to have truly seen it with their own eyes. With such strength, it is not an exaggeration to call him a god of war. Moreover, Zhao Feng led the troops and led the way, which made all the elites in awe. Having such a brave and fearless general is also a great encouragement to them. What's more, there is also the invisible blessing of Zhao Feng's luck official seal for the elites under his command. Even if it is only 1/10, it has a great embodiment on the real battlefield, time passed in the bloody killing. The sound of killing continued in the capital of Han, shouting, screaming, wailing. There was also the sound of the army charging, which had never stopped since the Qin army broke the city. Zhao Feng led his elite soldiers to kill quickly. Although the city was in chaos, under the command of Zhao Feng, 5 military marquises followed closely, and the military system of the Dui camp under Zhao Feng's command was still in place. Perhaps, this is also a wonderful use of the official seal of luck, which makes Zhao Feng and his subordinates invisible together. The last line of defense in the outer city of Han, the place where Cao Yi, the last general of Han, personally guarded. Finally, it's here. Looking at the Han army retreating and fleeing in front, and the black-armored Qin soldiers rushing madly under the hazy moonlight, Cao Yi showed a bitter look on his face. It's time now. How could he not see that the defeat was inevitable and the country was about to perish? Soldiers of the Korean Empire. The moment of life and death has come. I, Cao Yi, will lead you to coexist with the country. Pass on my order to fight against the Qin army. Bowmen in front, infantry in the back. Soldiers fleeing from the front will be killed on the spot once they attack the army formation. Cao Yi drew his sword and shouted loudly. We will follow the general until death. The thousands of Korean soldiers behind Cao Yi shouted in unison. Watching, the fleeing Korean soldiers were approaching the last line of defense of the outer city. Turn around and fight against the Qin army. If you get close to the chevaux de frise, kill them without mercy. A general beside Cao Yi stood in front of the chevaux de frise and shouted at the fleeing Korean soldiers, but in this crisis of life and death, the fleeing Korean soldiers didn't care at all and still fled towards the chevaux de frise they set up. Cao Yi looked at them coldly, raised his hand, and waved. The Han crossbowmen behind the barricades immediately faced the rooms of the fleeing Han soldiers. Swish, 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 swish. Face to face, hundreds of Han soldiers were shot and killed by their colleagues. Perhaps this move was cruel, but it was the best solution for his Han army. If these defeated soldiers were allowed to rush into their army, it would also cause them to fall into military disarray. Retreat immediately to fight the Qin army. Otherwise, kill. Cao Yi raised his sword and shouted. Hearing the sound, those Han soldiers who fled in panic also understood that they would die if they fled again. Under the threat of death, they had to turn around and continue to fight. There were also a few who continued to flee, and naturally they could not escape the fate of being pierced by arrows. Kill. Zhao Feng was fearless, with his left hand holding a damaged shield, and his right hand holding the Longquan sword. He didn't know how many Han soldiers had been killed by the Longquan sword, but the blade was not stained with blood. Perhaps this was the magic weapon that could kill without blood. Zhao Feng rushed out, the sword was swung. He easily harvested the life of the Han army in front of him. Under the leadership of Zhao Feng, the hundreds of Han soldiers who were fleeing in front of him were soon killed. Shoot! Looking at the Qin army that had already dispersed, Cao Yi shouted. Immediately, thousands of Han archers who had been prepared in front of the formation immediately came to the room. In the dark night, the arrows were shot densely. Many Qin warriors were shot and killed by the arrows and fell in a pool of blood, but under the command of Zhao Feng, the Qin warriors under his command were still extremely brave and followed the attack. Zhao Feng raised his shield to block, and the sword was swung and slashed, and sharp arrows were cut down. At the same time, Zhao Feng also rushed forward quickly at a fast speed. Those random arrows shot around Zhao Feng, and Zhao Feng's figure was like a ghost, dodging easily. Under such irregular random arrows, Zhao Feng easily dodged, and many Han soldiers looked at them as if they were looking at ghosts and gods. When he approached the chevaux de frise, Zhao Feng kicked it directly without any hesitation. With a bang, the chevaux de frise in front of him was kicked away directly. Ah! The next moment, a dozen Han archers behind the chevaux de frise were knocked down and killed by the chevaux de frise without any chance to react. It is conceivable how powerful Zhao Feng's kick was, and how lethal the chevaux de frise kicked out was. Kill one Han soldier and pick up 5 points of strength. Kill one Han soldier and pick up 5 points of strength. The panel continued to prompt. After kicking away a chevaux de frise, Zhao Feng looked at his sharp soldiers who were still shooting arrows and had suffered heavy casualties behind him. He turned around directly, just kicked it, another chevaux de frise flew out and hit the Han army. Zhao Feng followed suit and kicked away all the dozen or so barricades around him, clearing the way ahead. Brothers! We are the first to break through the Han capital, and we should also be the first to capture the king. Follow me and kill, Zhao Feng shouted loudly, and rushed directly to the Han army with undisguised ambition. He swung his sword and killed people everywhere. He frantically picked up attribute points, which became the source of Zhao Feng's strength. Change the formation. Spearmen, go. Seeing the destruction of the barricade in front of him and the Qin army rushing in, Qiao Yi immediately ordered a change of formation. At the moment he gave the order, under the night, a pair of murderous eyes had locked on Qiao Yi who was giving orders. The commanding Han general seems to have a high official position. Killing him can gain all attribute points. Zhao Feng valued these generals who had official positions and invisible luck the most, because once you have an official position above 10,000 generals, you have the opportunity to gain all attribute points. The higher the official position, the stronger the luck, and the more points you get to enhance all attributes. Thinking of this, Zhao Feng rushed directly into the Han army, and his eyes were fixed on Qiao Yi, and he rushed towards his position. The sharp soldiers behind Zhao Feng also tried their best to follow Zhao Feng and rushed towards the Han army. The long spear soldiers went first and rushed forward to kill the enemy with all their strength. The Han army formation arranged by Qiao Yi was instantly dispersed. The killing continued. Zhao Feng approached Qiao Yi step by step, and his sharp soldiers cooperated tacitly, following Zhao Feng to charge and kill, and did not wait rigidly in place. Since breaking the city, all the sharp soldiers under Zhao Feng understood a key point to kill the enemy. Just follow their captain and charge all the way. As long as they follow their captain, they can definitely kill the enemy and make merit, and the chance of survival is much greater. Han General. It's really a big official, and there are guards around him. Looking at Qiao Yi, who was only a few feet away, and looking at the guards around him standing up to protect him, Zhao Feng smiled excitedly in his heart. P.S. Please recommend, please vote, please monthly vote, please follow up, please follow up. Follow up is the most important. Now the new book is updated twice a day, and the subsequent release will guarantee 10,000 words. Thank you for your support. Chapter 52, Kill Qiao Yi. The Passionate Zhang Ping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Han and Qin are not the same country, however, the military systems in this era were basically the same, with only differences in titles. Those who can be protected by personal guards must have an official position above the general. This is enough to prove that Qiao Yi's official position is not low, and this made Zhao Feng even more excited. Kill! Zhao Feng gave a low shout and killed Qiao Yi with a clear target. The warriors behind him didn't need Zhao Feng to say anything, and quickly spread out to attack behind Zhao Feng. Kill him quickly. Seeing Zhao Feng rushing towards him, he looked unstoppable. Qiao Yi immediately shouted loudly. The order fell. Many personal guards around Qiao Yi held swords and attacked Zhao Feng. Kill! The guards roared with great momentum. Zhao Feng did not dodge, but faced him directly, slashing out with his sword. Suddenly, the weapons of the guards in front of them were broken, blood marks appeared on their necks, and they died instantly. Easily deal with these guards. Zhao Feng continued to charge. These well-trained Korean guards in front of them could not stop Zhao Feng at all, and they were killed when they stood in front of Zhao Feng. Is he a human or a ghost? Seeing such a fierce Zhao Feng, Qiao Yi was shocked. He is also a famous general in Han Dynasty and has been on the battlefield many times. but he has never seen Zhao Feng's fierce combat power. Hundreds of personal guards surrounded them, but he was killed directly. It's like entering a deserted place. General of the Guard. The commander of the personal guards shouted loudly. The surrounding guards quickly gathered and surrounded the shield, completely protecting Cao Yi. He turned out to be a general from South Korea. Then your life is worth more. Zhao Feng became even more excited when he heard the shouts of Han's guards. He rushed directly towards the tight shield array. The moment is approaching. Zhao Feng held the shield stained with endless blood in his hand and threw it at the shield army in front of him. He used almost all his strength to throw it, and the power of this blow can be imagined. Boom! There was a shattering sound, mixed with screams. The defensive shield formation composed of more than a dozen people in front of them was instantly defeated. More than a dozen people were blown away by the power of the shield. Several Korean soldiers who withstood the power of the shield were instantly killed. Monster, monster! The surrounding Han soldiers looked at Zhao Feng in great horror, with despair in their eyes, as if they were looking at monsters. Combined formation. Quick! Cao Yi shouted hysterically, but at this moment, as the shield formation was broken, Zhao Feng didn't give them a chance to react. Zhao Feng rushed towards Cao Yi at full speed. In the dark night, I saw a figure that was countless times more powerful than an ordinary person passing by. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Feng rushed in front of Cao Yi as the shield formation encircled him again. The Xuanhuan sword thrust out instantly during the sudden advance. There was a pop. Cao Yi didn't even have a chance to react as a sharp pain swept over him. He lowered his head tremblingly, and the murderous Qin general had already pierced his body. Strange, monster. Cao Yi glanced at Zhao Feng strugglingly and uttered 3 words in a trembling voice. Kill General Han, gain 10 points of all attributes, and obtain a first-level treasure chest. A prompt appeared on the panel. The surrounding Han guards all looked at Zhao Feng in shock and daze. Under their heavy protection, the Qin general in front of him actually killed their general. Zhao Feng ignored their shock and took advantage of the situation to draw the Xuanhuan sword and slash it down. Cao Yi's head fell into Zhao Feng's hands. This is a battle achievement. He wants the treasure chest, and he also wants the military exploits. Now that he has embarked on this road of killing enemies and making contributions, Zhao Feng will naturally go to the end. I have killed General Han. The Korean army has collapsed. Brothers, kill the enemy and make great achievements now. I will lead you to make great achievements. Zhao Feng shouted and raised the head high in his hand. This moment, the enemy's morale was instantly shattered. The great Qin warriors behind Zhao Feng were excited and excited. Captain Kamui. Kill. Kill all the enemy troops. Many great Qin warriors roared, their morale soaring to the sky. Run away quickly. The general was killed. We lost. Run away quickly. Seeing Cao Yi's death, the morale of the originally relatively solid defense line collapsed in an instant. The surrounding Korean troops passed one by one, and then one by one. If one escapes, he will take away 10 others around him, 10 with 100. For a moment, the last line of defense in Handu's outer city was shattered. Zhao Feng naturally led his soldiers in pursuit. Inner city. Report. Report to the Prime Minister. The outer city has been completely lost, and the Qin army has invaded the inner city. A Korean general quickly came to Zhang Ping and loudly reported. Where is Cao Yi? Zhang Ping frowned and asked angrily. Return to the Prime Minister. General Cao has died in battle. General Han said tremblingly. Hear the words. Zhang Ping's face changed slightly, and finally he showed a touch of sadness. General Cao, you are worthy of being my general of Korea. You take the first step, and the truth will be revealed soon. Prime Minister. Now the Qin army has all entered the city. There are less than 20,000 soldiers in the inner city plus the palace guards. It is impossible for us to hold it. General Han said bitterly, you have to keep it even if you can't keep it. The truth here is to live and die with the country. I, the Zhang family, have been serving as Han ministers for generations and will never surrender to the Qin dynasty. Zhang Ping said coldly, full of determination to die with his country. now that his family and children have been sent away, naturally he no longer has any worries, but this time. Prime Minister. Your Majesty has an urgent edict. A general of the Imperial Guard came quickly. What is your edict? Zhang Ping asked immediately. Your Majesty is urgently issuing an edict. The capital city has been captured and the defense is no different. Your Majesty summons the Prime Minister to immediately lead his troops back to the palace to defend the royal city and negotiate terms with the Qin army. The Han Imperial Guard general bowed and said. Zhang Ping's expression changed. He was shocked at first, and then showed a wry smile. Is your Majesty ready to surrender? Return to the Prime Minister. After the city was broken, hundreds of officials advised not to fight forcefully, but to guard the palace pending peace talks with Qin. Said the commander of the Imperial Guard. Well. Zhang Ping looked up to the sky and sighed, then waved his hand. Generals, please return to the palace to garrison. After saying this, Zhang Ping drew his sword and still stood there. Why is the Prime Minister doing this? The commander of the Imperial Guard looked at Zhang Ping, who was motionless, and his expression immediately changed. Han Chen during the Zhang family era will never surrender. Return all of you to the palace. The truth is, I will fight the Qin army alone. Zhang Ping said impassionedly. Hear this. The commander of the Imperial Guard bowed to Zhang Ping with a look of reverence on his face. Prime Minister, you are a great virtue. Zhang Ping's generous death also made many Korean soldiers sigh with emotion, and they all bowed to him. General, I am willing to follow the Prime Minister and protect the country with my own body. If you want to stay, please stay. If you don't want to, return to the palace for protection and you may have a way out. Zhang Ping said with a sigh. P.S. Please give me recommendation votes, please give me monthly votes, please keep reading, the key is to keep reading, please. Chapter 53 Kill Zhang Liang's father. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Finally. Under Zhang Ping's influence, many Han soldiers who did not want to surrender stayed and guarded Zhang Ping. Of the tens of thousands of Han soldiers left, only less than 500 people remained. Not all of the country's demise is loyal and righteous. Zhang Ping glanced and sighed in his heart, but looking at the Han soldiers around him, Zhang Ping felt a kind of comfort in his heart. At least, there are still hundreds of loyal and righteous people. Time passed gradually. At dawn, the sun had quietly risen. This Han capital city had experienced a day and night of war, with countless corpses inside and outside the city, and the bloody smell enveloped the whole city. And here, Zhang Ping was in the inner city. Thousands of Qin soldiers had appeared in front of him, and each of these Qin soldiers was covered with blood. It can be imagined that countless Han soldiers died in their hands. Looking at the Han army deployed in front of him, these Qin troops did not attack directly, but their eyes were full of murderous intent, staring at the Han troops in front of them, as if the Han troops in front of them were their prey. However, the general standing in front of them did not speak, nor did he attack, so they could only hold back. What is the name of the Qin general? Facing the thousands of Qin soldiers with murderous intent, Zhang Ping did not panic, but asked calmly. Qin Due, Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng raised his sword and replied coldly. Chao Yi, died in your hands. Zhang Ping glanced and saw the head hanging on Zhao Feng's waist. That was the new general of his great Han. I don't know his name, it seems that he is quite important in your Han country. However, this Due has killed those who are more important than him. Bao Yuan also died in the hands of this Due. Zhao Feng said very calmly, hearing this. Even Zhang Ping, who had long been ready to die, was stunned at this moment. The death of Bao Yuan, the last capable general of Han, almost made his surprise attack plan come true. It's you. Zhang Ping stared at Zhao Feng with eyes wide open in disbelief. It's me. Zhao Feng replied calmly. Good, good, good. At least before I die, I can know who killed the general. It's worth it. Zhang Ping murmured. Then, he strode out. He clenched the long sword in his hand, stared at Zhao Feng and shouted, the Prime Minister of Han, Zhang Ping, is here. Do you dare to fight with me? Zhao Feng did not speak. He raised his sword and walked towards Zhang Ping. Kill! Zhang Ping shouted, holding the sword and stabbing at Zhao Feng. It's just that he is a civil official holding a sword, and he may have learned some martial arts, but it's not enough in front of Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng just turned sideways, and Longquan stabbed casually, with a sound of puff, it went straight through Zhang Ping's heart. Although you are a civil official, you are a soldier when you pick up a weapon, and you are all enemies. Live with the country, die with the country. I also respect your loyalty. Zhao Feng said in a deep voice. Zhang Ping opened his mouth slightly, used the last bit of strength, and shouted loudly, Zhang Ping, Zhang family, are worthy of the great Han. Zhao Feng said nothing more. Draw out the Longquan sword. Zhang Ping's body fell to the ground weakly. Kill the Prime Minister of Han, Zhang Ping, and get 10 points of all attributes and a first-level treasure chest. The panel prompts. Goodbye, Prime Minister. I will follow the Prime Minister now. The Prime Minister is waiting for me. I will come. After seeing Zhang Ping's death in battle, the Korean soldiers who stayed with Zhang Ping and lived and died with him roared, carrying their own weapons and rushed towards Zhao Feng. No matter which era, every country must have loyal and righteous people, and there must be people who sacrifice their lives. When a country is about to perish, live with the country. This, perhaps, is the pure heart of a child who protects his country. Kill! Zhang Han and Wei Quan shouted at the same time, leading the elite soldiers to kill these Han troops. If I were in the same situation as Zhang Ping and these Han troops, I would probably sacrifice my life. When a powerful enemy invades, it is the duty of a man to defend his home and country. But in the end, I am standing on the territory of another country and killing the army of another country. Perhaps this is inevitable in history, but it is different from what I thought before. In this era, human life is like grass. In the end, I was completely pulled in by the trend of Qin's unification. Perhaps, I used to be a commoner and did not really integrate into this era. Now I am truly integrated. Wang Yan is right. If we want to make the world free of war, we must sweep across the world and make all countries disappear, so that our Chinese people will not kill each other. But once Qin Shihuang dies, the world will fall apart again, and the same people will still kill each other. No history, perhaps this is also a historical trend that will definitely happen. Zhao Feng naturally knew that all this would happen. Qin destroyed the 6 kingdoms and ruled China. The first emperor in the history of the world appeared. It seemed that the general trend was established and Qin would create a career for the ages, but the national destiny only lasted for 2 generations. When the first emperor died, the world was divided. Qin Shihuang's unification of the world was the key to creating the unification of every era in the future of China. This is inevitable. This is a spirit that unites the ethnic group. If the Qin dynasty really ends, and Qin Shihuang really dies, and Hu Hai, the incompetent man, succeeds to the throne, the person who reunites the world will never be Liu Bang, let alone Xiangyu, but me, Zhao Feng. When the Qin dynasty collapses, I, Zhao Feng, will be the second person to unite the world after Qin Shihuang. Amid the fighting around him, Zhao Feng stood still for a long time, and seemed to have completely understood. The host has just embraced the heart of an emperor, and can open the sub-panel of affiliated forces. Opening conditions, recruit subordinates. Just after Zhao Feng figured it out, a prompt suddenly appeared on the panel. It seems so. I really chose the right path, and I don't know what the sub-panel of affiliated forces will be used for. Zhao Feng smiled in his heart, revealing his expectation. At this time, report to the commander, the Han army has been killed here. Zhang Han ran to report quickly, with a look of excitement on his face. There are only a few hundred Han soldiers here. Facing the fierce Qin army warriors and the absolute advantage in the number of Qin soldiers, these Han soldiers naturally have little resistance. It is not difficult to be annihilated so quickly. Advance steadily towards the palace. The Han army still has troops and will not be so easily resolved. Zhao Feng said. Yes. Zhang Han immediately took the order and retreated, and Zhao Feng looked at the body of Zhang Ping in front of him, suddenly thought of a historical record. Zhang Ping, son of Zhang Kaidi, father of Zhang Liang. I directly killed the father of Zhang Liang, the sage of strategy in history. This is a great revenge, the revenge of killing my father. Zhang Liang will hate me to the bone in the future. Zhao Feng thought with some emotion in his heart, Zhang Liang, the sage of strategy, how could Zhao Feng not know the capable man who assisted Liu Bang in founding the country in history? P.S. Please recommend votes, monthly votes, follow-up reading, please, please. Chapter 54, Surround the Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He is the father-killing enemy of Zhang Liang in the future, and he has indeed participated in history. The enemy who killed his father, the person Zhang Liang must kill in the future will definitely be Zhao Feng, only, Zhao Feng is really not afraid. Then he raised the Longquan sword and chopped off Zhang Ping's head. In the Qin army, the rules are like this. And the heads of the enemy's powerful people can best prove their military exploits, if there is no such certificate, who among the rebel army can prove this military exploit? And treating the enemies they met on the battlefield, they hated each other to the core. If it weren't for the real prestige, and if it wasn't for the real generals above the commander-in-chief to speak, no one would dare to bury them alive, because they can't control ordinary soldiers. So many. This time, I won the ability to destroy the city, kill the general, and kill the prime minister. Capturing the king still requires hard work. Historical records indicate that the king of Han was forced to surrender. Now that there are not many troops to defend the inner city of Han capital, I am afraid that the king of Han will still surrender as recorded in history. Zhao Feng thought to himself, this is the general trend, there are few kings in this era who can coexist with their country. Zhao Feng also categorically did not believe that King Han was not the kind of person who was afraid of death. Historical records, Han Wangan, the last king of Han, was not a powerful king, outside the city. Report. Report to the general. The outer city has been completely captured. Our army has entered the inner city and attacked the Han palace. Li Ting's personal guard commander reported with excitement. Hear the news. Li Ting's brows on the chariot were moved and full of excitement, color. This great achievement has been achieved by him. Have you checked it out? Who broke the city? Who was the first to do it? Li Ting also asked at this moment. Return to the general. Under General Chen Tao, Captain Zhao Feng of the 1st Lieutenant Battalion broke open the city gate with his own strength, led his troops to defeat the Korean defense line, and killed countless enemies. The guard commander said with respect. Break the city gate with one person. Li Ting's expression changed, and he looked at the commander of the guards in front of him in shock. Why is this battle report so unbelievable? How did he do it? There are so many warriors in our Qin dynasty who have never broken through it with a city hammer. Li Ting asked in surprise. General, go take a look for yourself. The last general can only say that Captain Zhao Feng is born with divine power. The guard commander said respectfully, now that the inner city has been breached, and warriors have been deployed to guard the city tower, there is naturally no threat. Walk. Li Ting immediately gave the order. The warrior driving the chariot immediately galloped towards the city gate. When I saw the city gate that was destroyed by sharp weapons, there are even cracks in the city wall connecting the city gates. You can imagine how much power broke out when it was broken. Is this kind of power really human? Li Ting couldn't help but be shocked when he saw it. Report to the Chinese Army Sima to record your merits. The credit for breaking the city went to Captain Zhao Feng. The merits of commanding the army go to Chen Tao, the general. After coming back to his senses, Li Ting explained to his guards. No. The guard commander responded immediately, the success of breaking the city, that was achieved by countless warriors who came one after another. Zhao Feng's destruction of the city can be regarded as the real first achievement, but so can Chen Tao, who commanded the general camp. This is the superior. He also has his share of the great achievements made by those under his command, but for Zhao Feng, this was considered an advantage for Chen Tao. If he is in another general camp, the one who gets the advantage is the other generals. In the final analysis, it still depends on which general camp Zhao Feng is in. Report. General Qi. I just got the battle report. All the Korean troops have retreated to the Han Palace and huddled. Our army has completely taken control of the inner city of Han capital. 10,000 men galloped out of the city on horseback. When they came to Liang, they immediately loudly reported. The Turtle Palace. King Han is afraid and wants to surrender. Liang sneered. Subsequently, Liang waved his hand and said, "This is the general's order to surround the palace. There is no need to attack for the time being. If King Han is willing to surrender, I can give him a chance to survive." The generals on the side immediately accepted the order. Promise. Walk. Enter the city. Liang said loudly. The soldiers driving the chariots immediately drove toward the city. Along the way, there were corpses everywhere in the city. There are sharp soldiers and Korean soldiers, but most of them are Korean soldiers, as well as slave cannon fodder forcibly recruited by the King of Han. After the Qin army broke through the gate of Handu and rushed in, the situation of the battle had changed. After all, it was absolutely impossible for the Han soldiers without defensive power to compete with Qin Ruishi. The war has reached this point. South Korea has absolutely no chance to change. No matter how Zhao and Wei send reinforcements, it is impossible to change. Outside the palace, the army besieged the city. Almost more than half of the warriors were stained with blood, and their weapons were stained with blood, but now the army did not immediately launch an attack on the palace. Instead, they aimed their bows and crossbows at the palace, waiting to attack. First, they fired random arrows to clear the way. Compared to outside the city, the arrow rain that has now surrounded the palace is enough to turn the entire palace into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Captain. Why did you stop? Why don't you go straight to the palace? There must be a lot of good stuff in here. Zhao Feng stood in a place, and Xuanhuan behind him said in confusion, looking at the palace so close, Xuanhuan really wanted to charge in. Of course, it was not just him who thought so, but the sharp soldiers behind him also thought so. Now that they stopped outside the palace for a rest, their enthusiasm for killing the enemy was greatly suppressed. From the current situation, the King of Han must want to surrender, and he will definitely send someone out to negotiate. For our army, if we can take the palace without bloodshed and make the King of Han surrender, this is naturally the best. Zhao Feng glanced at the closed palace, and the Han army inside did not shoot arrows. The answer was obvious. Alas, I am having a good time killing. After joining the army for so long, this is the most enjoyable time I have killed. Xuanhuan said with some disappointment. Don't say it, it's really enjoyable to follow the captain to charge and kill. I killed at least 20 Han soldiers. Another military marquis also laughed. The captain is the god of war in our army, with extraordinary combat power. It is our blessing to be under the captain's command. Other military marquises and elite soldiers also said. After this battle, all the elite soldiers of the captain's camp led by Zhao Feng were full of respect for them. In the army, strength is respected, and it is best reflected on the battlefield, and Zhao Feng's bravery in killing the enemy on the battlefield this time was not only seen by the elite soldiers of the captain's camp, but also by countless elite soldiers in the whole army, and at this moment, the two heads on Zhao Feng's waist are the model of military exploits. The head of Han Xian, the new general, the head of Han Prime Minister, in addition to the merit of breaking the city, it is naturally unimaginable what kind of reward this military exploit will get. But what is certain is that Zhao Feng must have a promising future. P.S. Please recommend, please vote, please read, please read. Chapter 55 Zhao Feng's Powerful Attributes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Come on. Don't brag. Hurry up and take a good rest. After listening to everyone's words, Zhao Feng said with a smile, Zhao Feng sat directly on the ground, and everyone also sat down one after another. After a day and night of killing, the warriors who invaded the city were indeed very tired. Now that there is a temporary truce, now it is natural to seize the opportunity to rest. Properties Panel. Zhao Feng immediately summoned his panel. After a day and night of killing, countless enemies died in his own hands. Zhao Feng picked up countless attributes, but after fighting all the way, Zhao Feng could feel that his strength had become stronger. but he did not check what his attributes were. Take some time off now. Zhao Feng naturally wanted to take a look. Age, 16 years old. Strength, 1656. The stronger the strength, the corresponding power can be exploded. Speed, 1234. The higher the number, the faster. Physique, 914. The stronger the physique, the faster recovery from injuries and endless physical strength. Spirit, 923. The stronger the spirit, the clearer the mind, the clearer the thoughts, the spiritual power can be released externally, and when it grows to a certain level, it can sense the aura of heaven and earth. Lifespan, 87 years plus 678 days, portable space, 9 cubic meters, cultivation method, dragon elephant technique, martial skills, dragon subduing palm, explosive fist. Mastered at the elementary level, one punch can explode twice as much as one's own strength. Strength and speed are the easiest attributes to pick up. This battle actually made my strength and speed increase so much. Who in the world is stronger than me? And the lifespan has also been increased by almost a year. Keep picking it up, immortality is no longer a dream. Looking at his attributes, Zhao Feng was very excited. The result of this day and night of all-out killing is the enhancement of attributes. Certainly, there are 4 more treasure chests. All attributes were increased by 202 treasure chests were obtained. After killing General Han, he got another one. After killing Zhang Ping, he got another one. The latter two are in high positions and have good luck, so they can naturally allow Zhao Feng to obtain the treasure chest. It's a pity that I can't kill the king. If I kill the king of Han, I guess I can explode a second-level treasure chest, right? Looking at the 4 treasure boxes, Zhao Feng felt greedy in his heart. However, this idea was rejected by Zhao Feng himself as soon as it appeared. In this era, royal power is supreme. This is true even for the king of an enemy country. No one can kill the king without permission unless ordered by the king of Qin, otherwise, it would not be a merit, but a sin, this time. As Li Ting's chariot approached. Welcome, General. The 10,000 generals and deputy generals under Li Ting's command immediately came forward and bowed to Li Ting. How's it going? Li Ting stood on the chariot and asked very calmly. Return to the general. The Han Palace has been completely surrounded by our army, and everyone inside is unable to escape. There has been no action in the palace. The general will wait for the general's order before making a decision. A deputy general said respectfully to Li Ting. Send the general's order. Shouting to the king of Han, I will give the king of Han a stick of incense to think about it. If he wants to survive and preserve his clan, he should immediately open the palace gate and order all Korean troops to lay down their weapons and surrender. If we don't make a decision after burning the incense, our army will bloodbath the Han Palace and leave no chickens or dogs behind. Li Ting said in a deep voice. The words fell. On the side, a messenger walked to the gate of King Han's palace and shouted loudly, I, General Qin, give the king of Han 1 stick of incense to think about it. If he doesn't open the palace gate and surrender within 1 stick of incense, our army will immediately attack the palace. Chickens and dogs will do it. Don't stay. After he made the announcement alone, several more messengers shouted their orders loudly and loudly, which reached the palace. Just after this sound, the palace door of King Han's palace opened a gap, just enough to accommodate one person entering and exiting. The middle-aged man wearing a Korean official robe with a calm and confident air walked out slowly, facing the countless murderous Qin army warriors outside the city. This man did not panic at all. Even when the Qin army's bows and arrows were aimed at him, he was not afraid and walked forward steadily. He has the magnanimity of Zhao Xiangru in the past. Don't be afraid of swords and axes. This man is quite brave. With so many bows and arrows aimed at him, every one of our Qin army warriors looked like tigers and wolves, looking at him like prey. He didn't panic at all. He is a great person. And as soon as this person came out, Zhao Feng also looked a little surprised and praised this man's magnanimity and courage. Soon, he walked up to Li Ting's chariot, bowed, clasped his fists, and saluted. Generally, you are polite. Looking at Korea, there is only one person with such magnanimity and courage. That is Gong Zifei, whose reputation is spread all over the world. This must be young Master Han Fei. Li Ting glanced at the visitor and smiled slightly. It's just a name, not a reality. Han Fei said very calmly. Since the young master has come out, he must have brought the edict from King Han with him. I, Li Ting, am a warrior. I don't like to beat around the bush, so just speak frankly. Will King Han fight or surrender? Li Ting stared at Han Fei with a hint of coercion. Han Fei was not afraid either. Instead, he raised his head and stared at Li Ting calmly and said, General, if my king surrenders, how will Qin deal with my king? How will it deal with my officials? How to deal with it is up to my king of Qin. If your king of Han opens the city and surrenders when my great Qin warriors attack your Han capital, and does not hold a fluke, then my king will definitely treat you kindly. But now that the army is approaching your Han palace, your Han state has reached the end of the road, and kindness is impossible. This time, I can only guarantee that you can survive. Li Ting said in a deep voice, the meaning of these words is also very clear. Surrendering when the Qin army is approaching the Han capital is enough to avoid many casualties among the Qin army warriors, and it is beneficial to the Qin army without bloodshed. But now the Han capital has been breached, and there is only one palace left in Han. Your Han state is no longer qualified to negotiate with the Qin. Hearing Li Ting's words, Han Fei did not show any color change, but replied calmly, if my king surrenders, can he not become a prisoner, not enter Qin, but go to another country? Prince Fei. Do you think it's possible? Li Ting sneered, and added, in the final analysis. Han's capital has been broken, and I don't care whether the king of Han surrenders or not. If he doesn't surrender, my Qin warriors can easily break the palace of the king of Han. If the king of Han surrenders, he can still survive. So, Prince Fei, do you understand? Hearing this, Han Fei also showed a bitter smile on his face, and then said, can General Li give my king some more time to consider? 1 hour, I must give an answer. There is something strange. When Zhao Feng heard that Han Fei wanted an hour, he immediately felt that there must be something strange in it. P.S. Please recommend votes, monthly votes, follow-up reading, and follow-up reading. The key is to follow-up reading. It is on the shelves and guarantees a minimum daily update of 10,000 words. Chapter 56 The King of Han has run away. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's all reached this point, there was no chance of any other choice, either fight or surrender, but Han Fei still needs another hour to think about it. What is this going to do? Could it be that they have something else they can do behind the scenes? Han Fei. Do you think I'm stupid? Li Ting stared at Han Fei with a sarcastic tone. I will only give you 1 stick of incense time. After 1 stick of incense, our army will march through the palace and leave no chickens or dogs behind. Li Ting shouted coldly, leaving no room for doubt. Hear this. Han Fei cupped his fists and raised his hands, and without saying anything else, he turned around and walked towards the palace. Li Ting did not order an attack and just watched quietly as Han Fei returned to the Han palace. Now that the situation is completely clear, there is no need to panic. The people in the Han palace are anxious now. General. Why give them time to send troops directly to destroy the Han palace? A deputy general said. The general said that a stick of incense is worth a stick of incense. Li Ting waved his hand and didn't pay attention. Xuanhuan Palace, inside the main hall. The throne on the high throne was empty. Xuanhuan is not here, and not everything is complete in the main hall. Less than half of the former civil and military officials are now left. Where are those who have never come? The answer is obvious. Escaped long ago. The country will perish. Not everyone can coexist with the country, especially those who hold wealth and power. They will try to transfer their wealth and escape to other countries, and still live a prosperous life. And now, not only most of the officials escaped, even King Han has disappeared. While tens of thousands of Korean troops were fighting to the death against the Qin dynasty, the King of Han had actually escaped quietly long ago, and not even the officials knew about it. Son. How's it going? But when Han Fei entered the palace, the remaining Han ministers immediately looked over. After 1 stick of incense, the Qin army will attack. Han Fei sighed. The king has escaped. What should I do? The number of troops in the palace is only about 20,000, and their morale is completely lost. There is no way they can stop the Qin army. Do we really have to surrender? That the Han ministers in the court started talking one after another, feeling unwilling to do so, but more importantly, they were afraid of the Qin army. Our king has fled. If we don't surrender, what else can we do? I, Han Fei, can die with my country, and so can you, my lords. But what's the reason for letting these tens of thousands of soldiers sacrifice themselves needlessly? We forged the imperial edict to mobilize troops. Isn't this just to protect these soldiers from fearless sacrifices? Han Fei said with a wry smile. What will the Qin army do to us if we surrender? A minister asked worriedly. What else? Only become a prisoner. Han Fei said with a wry smile, but without too much hesitation. Instead, he raised his head and looked at the main hall, saw the throne. Han Fei walked up slowly and opened the box containing the Wang Shi. Inside was the Korean Wang Shi. The kings of all ages are here. My ancestors from all generations of Korea are here. Han Fei is incompetent. It cannot save the fate of the country. Han Fei held Wang Shi up with a sense of guilt and a desire to die. My lords. The time for a stick of incense is almost up. Come out of the palace, Han Fei said with a tone of great lamentation. Subsequently, holding Wang Shi in both hands, he walked out of the palace with heavy steps, looking at Han Fei's figure. Han Chen in the palace followed Han Fei out one after another. Outside the palace, Li Ting stared at the palace gate. This time, General Qi. The time for burning incense is approaching. A deputy general loudly announced. Kindness. Li Ting nodded, murderous intent gradually rising in his eyes. The next moment, Li Ting slowly raised his hand. The Qin generals around him all had fiery eyes full of murderous intent, just waiting for the order to be issued. The rain of thousands of arrows will instantly cover the entire palace. The sharp soldiers of the Qin army will break through the palace gate and enter. It was at this time. The originally closed palace door suddenly heard movement and quickly opened. The decision has finally been made. When Li Ting saw this scene, a smile flashed in his eyes. Anything can happen in a rebellious army. It would not be a good thing if the king of Han died in a rebellious army. Surrendering without a fight would be the best chance. Followed, Li Ting also lowered his raised hand, eyes fixed. The palace door opens. Han Fei held the Korean seal and walked out slowly. Behind him were many civil and military officials following Han. You can see this scene. Li Ting's brows furrowed. Han Fei, the royal family of Han, led his palace ministers to surrender to Qin. I hope the general will remember God and have a good life, and will not use weapons to kill, and spare the lives of the palace officers and soldiers. Han Fei held the national seal and bowed with a sense of sadness, but at this moment, Li Ting stood on the chariot and asked coldly, since South Korea has surrendered, where is the king of Han? My king has already escaped without a trace. Han Fei said with a wry smile. What did you say? Li Ting frowned, with a hint of anger on his face. Where did he escape to? When our king fled, we didn't know at all. Where he is now, we don't know even more. Han Fei smiled bitterly and shook his head. This is not a lie, but a fact. The king of Han fled without telling anyone, not even his nominal uncle. Li Ting did not speak, but stared into Han Fei's eyes, as if to see if he was lying. But there was no ripple in Han Fei's eyes, only a bitter feeling of losing his country. And many of the Han officials behind Han Fei were terrified. Gong Zifei is a gentleman known throughout the world, and he will not lie. I believe you. Li Ting said slowly. Then can the general accept the surrender of the soldiers in the palace? Han Fei raised his head and asked loudly. Put down your weapons and you can live. Li Ting said loudly. So. Han Fei thanks General Li. Han Fei showed a relaxed smile on his face. He walked forward slowly, held up the national seal in his hand, and handed it to Li Ting. From now on, Han will not exist. Li Ting also took the national seal with both hands. I hope the general can keep his promise and stop killing the people of Han. Thank you, Han Fei. Han Fei spoke slowly again, then, Han Fei took a step back, he suddenly pulled out the sword from his waist. How dare you? The sharp soldiers around him immediately raised their crossbows and aimed at Han Fei. Don't do it. Li Ting shouted immediately. The sharp soldiers around him put down their crossbows. Han Fei raised his sword and fell directly on his neck, with a kind of sadness. The fate of the great Han kingdom is dead. As a prince of the royal family, Han Fei should coexist with the country. Said, Han Fei was about to cut his neck. Seeing this, Li Ting's face changed, and he hurriedly shouted, Han Fei, if you dare to die, I will massacre the palace of the king of Han. P.S. Please recommend, please vote, please read. Chapter 57 Zhao Feng, there should be a lot of treasures in the treasury of the Han Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as these words fell, Han Fei's face was filled with surprise. Why didn't General Li keep his promise? You are the person the king has specifically requested. If you die, how can I explain to the king? So, please respect yourself, young master. Li Ting said slowly, as he spoke, with a wave of his hand, a deputy general rushed directly to Han Fei and took away the sword in Han Fei's hand. It seems that the historical records are true. Qin Shihuang valued Han Fei very much, but it was precisely because of this that Li Si became jealous and eventually murdered him. Han Fei, who was the master of the legalists, died before he could show his abilities in the Qin dynasty. Although they were a little far apart, Zhao Feng's hearing was naturally very clear. As for Han Fei's fate, Zhao Feng was naturally very clear, but even if he was clear, it seemed to have nothing to do with Zhao Feng. It seems that Han Fei was determined to die. Even if Li Si didn't take action, Han Fei had no intention of surviving, let alone being loyal to Qin. Zhao Feng didn't think that he could make a royal son, a great talent with a world-renowned reputation, work for him with just a few words. If he thought that the ancients were so simple, it would be too stupid. Take Lord Han and the civil and military ministers away and take good care of them. Li Ting ordered loudly. Yes. The guards on the side immediately responded and took Han Fei and the dozens of Han ministers away. Then, Li Ting looked at the sharp soldiers around him who were waiting in formation and shouted loudly, line up and disperse. Under the command of their respective generals, the army dispersed in an orderly manner. Pass on my order. Commander Chen Tao, lead the Due battalion to enter the palace to garrison, search the palace, and expel all the people in the palace. After entering the palace, anyone who dares to resist will be killed without mercy, and order all the Han soldiers to lay down their weapons and leave the palace. Li Ting shouted loudly. I obey your order. Chen Tao responded immediately. He then looked at the troops behind him, especially at Zhao Feng. Due Zhao Feng, you lead the army first, and Lu Wu will lead the army behind. Yes. Zhao Feng responded immediately. Lu Wu was a little weak and had many injuries on his body. After this battle, except for the initial vanguard battalion, which suffered more than half of the casualties, the Due battalion under Lu Wu suffered the most casualties. After the battle, less than 2,000 of the 5,000 elite soldiers were left. On the other hand, although the 5,000 elite soldiers of the Due battalion led by Zhao Feng were all injured, more than 4,000 survived. All the military marquises, listen to my order and follow me into the palace. Zhao Feng said loudly, and Zhao Feng was very curious about the palace of King Han. It's a national palace. I wonder if King Han has had time to transport the treasures in the treasury. If not, can't I go into the treasury to take a look? Thinking of this, Zhao Feng's heart was also full of expectations. If it were someone else, even 10,000 generals could not take away the treasures in the palace, but Zhao Feng had a portable space, 9 cubic meters, which was now empty. If there were really treasures, who would know that he took it? Now Zhao Feng's mind has changed. For himself, for the future, and for the future hegemony of the king, plundering resources is also the key now. Then, Zhao Feng strode into the palace. The 5 military marquises behind him also led their subordinates into the palace. The rest of the generals, lead your troops and block the capital of Han. No one is allowed to leave without my order. Search every house for me. If you find the trace of the king of Han, you will be rewarded. I don't believe that the king of Han can escape so quickly. Li Ting shouted coldly, if the king of Han is not there, it will be a failure for him. The military merit of destroying the country will be tarnished. Li Ting will naturally not allow it. I obey your order. The generals responded in unison, inside the palace of the king of Han. Everywhere are the Han soldiers who have lost their morale and are filled with fear. When they saw Zhao Feng leading the Qin army into the palace, they all looked terrified, and many Han soldiers looked at Zhao Feng with fear in their eyes, and even their bodies were shaking. This was extreme fear. It's that killer. It's him. Many Han soldiers recognized Zhao Feng at a glance. Many of these Han soldiers escaped from the outer city of Han, and some escaped from the inner city. From the fall of Han's capital to the Qin army's arrival here, Zhao Feng played an indispensable role. It can be said that he never stopped leading his captain camp to fight, especially Zhao Feng's bravery and fear, which made all the Han soldiers afraid. Killer God, evil star. They all talked about this when they fled, fearing that they would meet Zhao Feng, the killer god and evil star again. Zhao Feng glanced around and felt the fear of the Han soldiers here, but Zhao Feng didn't care much. Your king has run away, and your son Han Fei has surrendered to the Qin by offering the national seal. If you want to live, put down your weapons and leave the palace immediately. Zhao Feng shouted loudly to the Han soldiers around him. Hearing the sound, walala, walala, the surrounding Han soldiers dropped their weapons and ran out of the palace in a swarm, very fast, fearing that they would be killed if they were one step slower. They are quite sensible. Zhao Feng said with some emotion. Captain. Didn't you see the way these Korean soldiers looked at you? It's like seeing a ghost. I guess the captain is afraid of killing them. Zhang Han said with a smile. If they surrender, then surrender. Let the second captain's camp take care of it. Let's continue to enter the palace. Zhao Feng was thinking about the Korean treasury in his heart. There must be good things in the treasury of a country. He couldn't miss it. Yes. Zhang Han and his men didn't hesitate. They followed Zhao Feng with the sharp soldiers and continued to go deep into the palace. After Zhao Feng led his army into the palace, Lu Wu came in with the remaining soldiers under his command. When he saw the discarded weapons and the surrendered soldiers of Han who quickly left the palace, he naturally ordered to maintain it immediately. After this battle, Lu Wu survived the gates of hell by chance, which made him completely lose his previous spirit. Inside the palace, in the square in front of the hall where Han once held court, thousands of palace maids and temple people knelt on the ground. Among them were many concubines in gorgeous clothes. Han Fei is really a smart man. The palace has been arranged in advance. Otherwise, if our army enters and the palace is full of people fleeing, many people will definitely die. Looking at the palace people kneeling neatly in the square, Zhao Feng couldn't help but think to himself, it's obvious, this is definitely arranged by Han Fei. Captain. There are many princesses and concubines here. Do you want me to catch 2 for you and send them to your camp at night? Zhang Han looked at the concubines kneeling on the ground, many of whom were beautiful. Zhang Han immediately had an idea and smiled at Zhao Feng. P.S. Please vote for the monthly ticket, please recommend the ticket, please read it again, the key is to read it again, thank you. Chapter 58 The Royal Palace Treasure House. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing this, Zhao Feng turned his head and said unhappily, if you are not afraid of military law, go ahead. The Qin army has strict military discipline. If the general does not give the order, massacres and rapes are not allowed to happen. The king of Qin is determined to rule the world and fight for a foundation that will last forever, which is not something that can be done overnight. So the king of Qin issued an edict when he mobilized troops against Han. The sharp soldiers of Qin can only attack the enemy army, and must not hurt surrendered soldiers, let alone harmless civilians. Now these concubines, palace maids, and temple people in this square have surrendered. Although their future days will not be easy, most of them will be demoted to slaves and be given to meritorious officials, but military discipline is there and no chaos is allowed. If everyone is messing around, where is the military discipline? The Qin army is not a gangster. Hearing Zhao Feng's words, Xuanhuan smiled bitterly. I didn't say anything. Zhao Feng glanced at him, too lazy to say anything more, but looked at the 5 military marquises behind him and arranged, Xuanhuan, you lead your troops to guard this place. Luo Hua, Lu Wang, Zhuang Wei, the 3 of you will search separately in the Han Palace. Wei Quan, follow me to continue to go deep into the palace. Hearing this, the military marquises bowed one after another. Yes. Then they moved in batches. Brother Wei, find someone from the Han Palace and ask where the treasury is. This is an important matter, and we can't afford to be careless. Zhao Feng turned around and told Wei Quan. Yes. Wei Quan immediately accepted the order, then he personally brought 2 sharp soldiers to capture an older eunuch. Captain. This guy looks older, he should know. Wei Quan smiled and pointed at the eunuch. What is your identity in the Han Palace? Zhao Feng walked up and asked directly. I am the chief steward of the palace. The old eunuch replied in fear. Then you have found the right person. Do you know the treasury? Take us there. Zhao Feng said immediately. Yes. Please follow me, General. The eunuch nodded in fear, and then immediately bowed to lead the way. Now all the servants in the palace of King Han have gathered in the square in front of the court hall. There are more than 1,000 people. Under the guidance of this old chief steward, there is naturally no obstacle. As for the guards who used to guard the palace, most of them were deployed in the first defense of the city defense. Almost all of them died. Naturally, there was no other guard in the palace. It didn't take long for the old chief steward to bring Zhao Feng to a large palace. The main entrance of the palace is a heavy bronze door, which looks very solid. General, this is the treasury of the palace. But the key belongs to the king. You can't get in without the key. The old chief steward bowed and said nervously, now that his country of Korea has been destroyed, as a person with a broken country, he is naturally very scared. This is easy, just send a battering ram to break it open. Wei Quan looked at the bronze door and said with a smile. Brother Wei. Let the brothers spread out and guard. Zhao Feng took a look and said to Wei Quan. Okay. Wei Quan nodded immediately. All the sharp soldiers listened to the order, spread out and guard. No one is allowed to approach without the order of the captain. Wei Quan said loudly. As soon as the voice fell, more than 700 sharp soldiers of the military camp immediately dispersed and guarded everywhere. What's your name? Zhao Feng did not open the treasure house door immediately, but turned his head and looked at the eunuch and asked. Report to the general. I am Han Shi. The eunuch immediately said in panic. Do you know what the fate of the people in this palace will be? Zhao Feng asked again, hearing this. Han Shi's face changed, and he said with despair, at the least, he will be demoted to a slave, and at the worst, he will be forced to do hard labor. Zhao Feng did not speak, but stared at Han Shi in front of him. Feeling this gaze, the latter seemed to understand something, and suddenly knelt in front of Zhao Feng. I am willing to be a slave by the general's side, and I beg the general to accept me. Brother Wei, this person is very good. Let him stay with you. After nightfall, find a chance to take him out and settle him down in Handa City. This matter should be kept secret. Zhao Feng immediately explained to Wei Quan. Although Wei Quan was puzzled as to why Zhao Feng wanted to leave a eunuch behind, he naturally understood that Zhao Feng had his own intentions, and nodded immediately. Now that Handa City has just been broken, everything in the city is in chaos, and so is the palace. Taking out a mere eunuch is easy, and arranging him out is even simpler. After all, he is not an important character. Thank you, General. Thank you, General. I swear to be loyal to you until death. Han Shi kowtowed to Zhao Feng repeatedly. He naturally understood that his life was saved, and perhaps he could avoid becoming a slave and doing hard labor. For Zhao Feng, this Han Shi is of course useful. As the chief steward of the Han Palace, he is very familiar with the palace and Han. Now that Han is dead, the Qin army will not withdraw in a short time, but will stay here. Zhao Feng naturally has to seize this opportunity to spend the gold in his portable space. cultivate his own power, and have his own foundation, and this naturally requires people to do it. The people under his command are all Qin soldiers, and it is not easy to use them directly. This Han Shi is different. It is simple to let him do something for himself. After explaining, Zhao Feng walked towards the treasure house. The tightly closed bronze door in front of him looked extremely heavy. Without the key, he might have to force it open, but unfortunately, it was 2 doors. Zhao Feng pulled out the Xuanhuan sword and dropped it directly on the gap of the door, then he exerted a little force and heard a click. The connected lock was cut off instantly. Zhao Feng pushed the door with his hand and it opened. "Brother Wei, you stay outside and watch. I'll go in and see what's in this Han treasure house." Zhao Feng turned his head and smiled. "Zhao kid. You can look at this treasure house, but you must not take it carelessly. There are restrictions in military discipline. There are many people in the palace. If someone reports it to the Central Army Sima, it will be a serious crime. You have made great contributions this time and have a bright future. You can't do anything reckless." Seeing Zhao Feng about to enter the Han Palace treasure house, Wei Quan immediately reminded him. "Don't worry. I can't take it even if I want to. And the 2 heads here are priceless. I'll just go in and take a look." Zhao Feng replied with a smile, and spread his hands. The 2 heads on his waist were still dripping with blood, which looked very scary. These were Zhao Feng's military exploits, and he couldn't leave them. "That's good." Wei Quan nodded with relief. He really cared about Zhao Feng. Afterwards, Zhao Feng walked slowly towards the Han treasure house, walked into the treasure house. Why does this treasure house feel like it has been looted? That it caught my eye. It was just a bunch of big boxes, but these boxes were all opened, and the treasure house was in a mess everywhere. P.S. Please recommend, please vote, please monthly ticket, please read, the key is to read, please, please. Chapter 59 Zhao Feng made a huge profit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Obviously. This is the king of Han who began to move after realizing that it was impossible to resist the Qin army. Historically, the 6 countries' dignitaries are the backbone of the anti-Qin movement, and in addition to reputation, gold and silver are also needed to raise troops. Obviously, in history, the gold and silver of the dignitaries of the 6 countries, in addition to their own families, the royal treasury is also one of them. Damn it! Will this Han treasury be completely moved? That Zhao Feng cursed in his heart, then he continued to go deeper. At a glance, there were empty spaces again. Judging from the dust on the ground, there must have been many boxes here. Damn it, is it a waste of time? Zhao Feng cursed inwardly, continue to go deeper. This treasury is very large, but looking around, it is almost emptied. Soon Zhao Feng went deep into the innermost layer of the treasury, just stepped into this room. Zhao Feng's eyes lit up, and Zhao Feng also sensed a strange breath into the eye. The jades placed on the shelves had been moved away, and some were broken on the ground, but there were still many left, although the circulation of these jades is not as good as gold. Each piece that can enter the treasury of the Han Palace is of great value, and there are hundreds of them at a glance. Judging from the broken marks on the ground, it is obvious that the jades are easy to break, and they did not have time to transport them. Zhao Feng did not directly put these jades into his personal space. Instead, he spread his mental power and covered these jades, through mental power perception. Zhao Feng really saw that the jades were covered with a faint aura. Is the thing on this jade a spiritual energy? At just one glance, Zhao Feng felt the existence of this strange aura. Never mind. Study it later. Collect them all first. These jades are of great value and can be turned into my future capital. Zhao Feng thought, and directly spread his mental power to collect all the remaining jades in the treasury. Following Zhao Feng's footsteps, all the jades on the shelves fell into Zhao Feng's personal space. I made a profit on this trip to the treasure house. Zhao Feng smiled as he looked at the piles of jades in his personal space. The treasure house was in a mess. It had already been taken away by King Han. Zhao Feng would naturally not have any traces of these jades when he took them away. Who would have thought it was him? No. When Zhao Feng's mental power was completely dispersed, he found something else. He walked slowly towards a jade shelf, he pushed it gently, the shelf did not move at all. A mechanism. Zhao Feng immediately saw that the shelf was a mechanism, with a lot of secrets inside. It's difficult for others to find the switch of the mechanism, but it's simple for me. Zhao Feng smiled and dispersed his mental power directly. It only took a moment to find a sudden point, a torsion point hidden on the shelf. Zhao Feng walked over and twisted it. In a moment, click, click, click. A trembling sound appeared. This shelf against the wall suddenly opened, and a passage appeared. Sure enough, there is something hidden inside. There is actually a secret passage. Looking at the passage in front of him, Zhao Feng smiled, but in a moment, Zhao Feng looked closely and saw that there were many footprints at the entrance of the secret passage, and the footprints were still very clear. Not long ago, Zhao Feng suddenly thought of something. Will the king of Han escape from this secret passage? Thinking of this, Zhao Feng's heart was happy. If it was true, then the merit of capturing the king would really be his. Through this secret passage, perhaps the hiding place of the king of Han could be found. Zhao Feng did not rush into the secret passage, but shouted loudly, "Brother Wei." The voice came out of the treasure house. Wei Quan immediately rushed into the treasure house with a group of sharp soldiers. Looking at the empty treasure house along the way, Wei Quan's expression was also strange. Captain. With outsiders present, Wei Quan naturally performed the courtesy of a subordinate. This treasure house has been moved by King Han, but I found a secret passage, which may lead to a certain place. You stay outside to guard it. These 2 heads will be handed over to the military merit department for me. I will go to this secret passage to find out. Zhao Feng explained to Wei Quan, and handed the 2 heads on his waist to Wei Quan. After Wei Quan took it, he said with some concern, "Since this secret passage is so secret, will there be an ambush in it? Do I need to report it before making a decision? With my skills, Brother Wei, there is no need to worry. You guard this place well." Zhao Feng didn't say much, and rushed directly into the secret passage. In the secret passage, it was not dark, and there were long burning oil lamps on both sides of the wall with flickering flames. As Zhao Feng went deeper, his pace quickened. It took a long time to reach an empty place. Medicine Hall. Weapon Hall. Spiritual Pill Hall. At this moment, Zhao Feng saw 3 separate compartments with Korean characters written on them. Zhao Feng walked into the medicinal materials hall with some curiosity. He walked in, the smell of medicine hit his nose. Looking around, there were dozens of shelves in this stone room, each containing various medicinal materials. This is really a medicinal materials hall, with everything. There is even 100-year-old ginseng. Although it is not as good as the 1000-year-old blood ginseng in the Qin Palace, it can also be used to nourish my mother. Compared to jade, this place is also very rewarding for me. Zhao Feng, who was new to medicine, naturally smelled it. There were indeed all kinds of medicinal materials here. Although they were not of the highest quality, there were many medicinal materials that were not available among the people. Put it all away. No one knows I took it anyway. Zhao Feng didn't hesitate at all. He directly used his mental power and began to put all the medicinal materials in the stone chamber into his portable space. 9 cubic meters of space is completely enough to store these medicinal materials. Just a few dozen breaths, the shelves in this stone room are all empty. Go to the Bingge Palace again. Zhao Feng walked to another stone room with anticipation. Enter the eyes. There are also shelves, but this stone room is much larger than the Elixir Palace. Battle armor, changa, iron sword, crossbow, arrows, these common weapons all caught Zhao Feng's eyes. In history, Qin Shihuang collected copper and iron from all over the world and eliminated the soldiers of the people. No wonder the dignitaries of the 6 countries in history rebelled, and weapons seemed to pop up suddenly. This weapons hall was never discovered by the Qin army after the Han dynasty was destroyed. That is why, Qin Shihuang died, and these weapons were reactivated. Not to mention the weapons in this stone chamber, it is completely enough to arm a force of 5,000 armored soldiers. Look at the various weapons in this stone room. Zhao Feng couldn't help but think of history, the dignitaries of the 6 countries, they all have their own trump cards. Han has such a stone chamber to hide, and the other 5 countries must also be the same. they will definitely hide a lot of weapons as well. But now it's easier for me. Zhao Feng glanced at it, his eyes filled with heat. P.S. Please give me recommendation votes, please give me monthly votes, please follow up on reading, please follow up on reading, thank you very much. Chapter 60 Zhao Feng made a big profit. Chen Tao regretted it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are so many weapons here. You can't hold them all, otherwise you won't be able to fit them in your pocket. Zhao Feng took a look at his personal space. About 1/3 of the space was already used, and everything was piled together, but for Zhao Feng, even if they are piled together, they can be extracted accurately. It is impossible for Zhao Feng to take away all the weapons of these 5,000 people. You don't have to use long weapons like changa and spear. Short weapons, crossbows and armor cannot be discarded. It's okay to squeeze in. Zhao Feng thought for a moment and immediately had an idea. Then he walked to the location where nearly 1,000 iron swords were located, and put them all into the space, and then the crossbows and armor, all of them were put into the space. After collecting these, Zhao Feng's personal space was 99% full. Of course, these were not neatly arranged, but piled up in a mess, otherwise they would really not be able to fit. Zhao Feng did not collect the remaining long weapons because there was really not enough space. With these weapons, as long as I recruit some people secretly, I can train 1,000 armored men. Looking at the weapons in the space, Zhao Feng was very satisfied. This time treasure house really came to the right place, and since he has collected so much, even if someone from the army comes to inspect the treasure house later, they will never suspect him. This many weapons cannot be transported by one person. There is also a spiritual elixir palace. Is there really a spiritual elixir? It should be some heavy metal poisonous elixirs, right? Zhao Feng walked out and looked at the last stone room. Zhao Feng really didn't have any expectations for this one. In this era, or in ancient times, kings yearned for immortality, but the so-called elixirs of immortality were all fake, or they were poisons. Taking too much would lead to death. Historically, Qin Shihuang died suddenly while inspecting the sand dunes. He also died of heavy metal poisoning from eating too much poison pill. Went to the so-called spiritual pill hall. There is a kind of red fragrance as soon as you come in. It smells like a lot of tonics have been added to refine it, but the original tonics were wasted, and with the so-called refining, it turned into poison. Let Li Ting deal with these good things. Zhao Feng took a glance and saw that there were indeed many pills in the stone room, but Zhao Feng really had no interest in them. Zhao Feng then confirmed that there was nothing else in the secret passage. Then he left the stone room and continued walking towards the other end of the secret passage. King Han wanted to leave Handu and the palace quietly, and Han Fei didn't even know that he must have taken this secret road. This is also the only chance to catch him. If he is really caught, the success of capturing the king can allow Zhao Feng to go one step further and obtain a greater title, Han Palace. As Han Zhang's soldiers in the palace gradually left the palace, Qin Ruishi has completely occupied the palace. Inside the Han Korean Assembly Hall, Li Ting stood in the hall, with a group of generals standing behind him. The capital of Han was completely captured by the Qin dynasty. Congratulations to the general for his extraordinary feat of destroying the country for the Qin dynasty. A lieutenant general congratulated excitedly, but Li Ting's face was not so happy, but he said seriously, the king of Han has not yet been captured. Only by capturing him will Korea be completely destroyed. General, don't worry. Now our army has sealed off the entire city, and has specially dispatched a cavalry battalion to pursue it. Even if King Han really escapes from Xinjiang city, he will never be able to run far. He can definitely be caught. The deputy general on the side said immediately. I hope so. If King Han really escapes, then the success of destroying the country this time will be greatly reduced. Li Ting sighed, the country perished and the king fled. If the king of Han fled to another country and made a noise, and then gathered the troops of another country to invade, this would give the other country an excuse and make his army famous. This is not a good thing. That's why Li Ting is so worried. The king of Han couldn't find him, and if he really let him escape, he would definitely leave trouble for the Qin dynasty. Look at it from the general's point of view. If King Han really escaped from Xinjiang, which country would he flee to? Liang turned around and looked at the generals with a serious face. Return to the general. It must be Wei. A deputy general replied immediately. Why not Chu? Liang asked. Chu has been called a barbaric land since ancient times, and Han, Zhao, and Wei are both the three Qin dynasties and are of the same line. If the king of Han really escapes, he will definitely flee to Wei, and then from Wei to Zhao to seek protection. As for the Qin State and our great Qin, which have a good relationship, he will definitely not enter Chu, and the king of Han will not enter the so-called wilderness. The deputy general replied immediately. Liang nodded and smiled, I think so too. So please rest assured, General, with the power of our cavalry, we will definitely be able to catch up with King Han. The deputy general assured again. At this time, Liang turned his head and looked at Chen Tao. General Chen, the 10,000 generals under your command have contributed greatly to this attack on the city, especially Zhao Feng. He is born with supernatural power and can break through the city gate with one person. If he hadn't broken through, our army would have been defeated. It's not that easy to break through Handu. Chen Tao immediately stood up and said respectfully, what the general said is absolutely true. If it weren't for Zhao Feng, our army would never have been able to break the city so quickly. The first success in breaking the city in this battle was Captain Zhao Feng. Although Chen Tao hoped in his heart that Lu Wu could accomplish this feat of breaking the city, however, the Qin army's military merit system is strict and can directly reach the king's authority. No one dares to cheat on this military merit. After all, this is the foundation of the Qin dynasty's prosperity. Zhao Feng. Very good. It's your luck to be transferred from the logistics army to your camp. Liang said with a smile. General, it's my luck. If it weren't for Zhao Feng, I wouldn't have gotten this credit. Chen Tao echoed. But after this, Zhao Feng will also be promoted. This merit. I have reported it to the Sima of the Central Army. With this first merit of breaking the city, he can be promoted to the next level. Liang said slowly again, the implication is naturally very clear. In my Qin army, military merit comes first, and ability comes first. Since Captain Zhao Feng has the ability, there is naturally nothing I can do to stop him. Chen Tao replied immediately, but in his heart, Chen Tao still has some regrets. Alas! If Zhao Feng had been sent to the front at the beginning, instead of suppressing him, Lu Wu had been sent to the front. My Wanjiang camp would not have lost so many elite soldiers, and I am afraid that Zhao Feng would have been offended this time. Chen Tao thought with some regret in his heart. This battle. Everyone saw Zhao Feng's powerful fighting power, and also his infinite potential, although it was not too much for him to mobilize his confidants to serve as the vanguard to attack, it also cut off the possibility of being too close to Zhao Feng in the future. Based on Zhao Feng's current achievements, he might sit above him one day. All of this is uncertain. P.S. Please vote for the monthly ticket, please recommend the ticket, please read it, please read it.